In this video tutorial, we'll talk about the form component. The form component allows you to easily create a kiosk submission form so your customers can enter their information in that form and submit it to your backend web server. So when the customer clicks on the submit button, this information will be passed to your web server where you can store it in a database and also return back a string to the form so you can redirect the customer to another scene and show them that the information was successfully submitted. One prerequisite for this video is that you do understand how the collection component works. So if you haven't seen the video tutorial for the collection component, I do recommend that you see that first. So let's proceed by creating our first form. Switch over here to the scene editor and click on the plus sign to add our first scene. Go ahead and rename this scene our collection scene, since this scene will hold the collection so it can catch all the events for the form, and press enter to rename it. We'll add another scene and call this our form scene, and also add one more scene and call this our success scene. And so the collection scene is actually going to hold our collection component. The form scene is going to be embedded inside the collection scene, and the success scene is going to be the scene that the customer sees once he successfully submits information to the server. So let's switch to components and select the collection component. Drag and drop that to the scene. Make it a little bit bigger. And the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and, once it's selected, switch over here to the properties of the collection and set it to be on kiosk mode, since we're going to interact with the objects. Next, we need to associate the scenes that we're going to use within this collection. So switch to the items and then switch over here to the scenes, and just make sure that you use the scenes under the toolbox right here and not the main source scenes right here. So again, switch back to the scenes and drag over the form scene as the default scene as well as the success scene. So we're associating both scenes as members of the collection. Next, we'll go ahead and switch back to the form scene and go up to components and drag over the form component. Place it on top. And under its properties, we're going to go ahead and add a few items to the form. So we'll add 4 items. Next, we'll name each label. So the first one is going to be just our username. The second is going to be the company. We'll go ahead and put an email as well, and a phone number. Next, we'll go ahead and specify the field names that are going to be passed back to our web server. So it's got called username and company, email, and phone number. So these fields right here are going to be passed back to our web server so we can process the data. Next, we'll add the submit button. So go to the resources, and I have a PNG here, just an image. I'll go ahead and drag and drop the image, place it just about here, and go ahead and set the properties of this image under the definition to submit. And you can name this anything you want, and go ahead and make it also interactive so it's a clickable object. Next, I'll go ahead and just make the fonts a little bit bigger and also change the colors of the fonts. Now let's go ahead and modify a few more properties for the form. So I'll select the form and go again to its properties, and over here I'll set it so the username and the company are required fields. And I'll go ahead and make a little bit more room so you can see there's additional fields right here. And so for the email, I'll go ahead and set the email as the default field. And so the format for this field will need to be a valid email. And I'll go ahead and make the phone number also a required field. So the email will be optional, but the rest of the fields are going to be required. And you can tell that the required fields are marked with an asterisk, so the customer knows that he must fill these 3 particular fields. Next, we'll need to go ahead and set up the form so we can provide the URL to send the information to. So we'll select the form again, and under its properties, we'll select the events and click on the plus sign to add a new event. And over here, we need to associate the submit button. So we'll use the mouse to hold down the target and drag it and drop it to the submit button. Next, we'll go ahead and select post, and we'll go ahead and paste in the URL where we're going to be sending the information to. So I'll go ahead and make a little bit more room here. And so this is where we'll send the information to. And also, we need to look for a success string. A success string is any particular string that we're going to look for to know that the information was successfully submitted. So we'll just call this our success string, and this can be any string that you want, as long as this string is available within the HTML page that will be generated once the page is submitted. Now keep in mind that this URL can be both a web service as well as just a standard HTML page, as long as you supply all the required fields for the HTML. And we do support hidden field as well, so if you need to supply additional field, you can do that as well. And so the last thing now that we need to do in the form scene is to associate the actual form with a unique identifier so we can receive events from it. So let's go ahead and do that. Select the form and go to the definitions. And keep in mind that this name will be the identifier to receive events when this form is inside the collection. So let's go ahead and copy it. Next, we'll go ahead and complete our success scene, which is what the customer will see once he submits the information. So let's go ahead and drop a label here. Change the fonts, make it a little bit bigger. So now that we've completed our success scene and the form scene, let's switch back to the collection scene. And you can tell that we can already see the form inside the collection since this is the default scene or the first scene. So let's go ahead and select the collection and load up its properties, and under items you can see that the form scene is now within view. And now we'll need to go ahead and create a new event so we can capture the submit click. So we'll go to events, add a new event, paste in the form name that we've copied earlier, and tell it to go to a specific page, to a selected page. Again, hold down the target and select our success page. So this completes the association and the creation of the form. And now let's go ahead and test this. So we'll switch to the timelines. We'll switch to scenes, select our collection scene and put it on a screen division. Double click to load up the properties. And I'll go ahead and leave the phone number blank on purpose and click on submit. And you can see that we get an alert letting us know that we need to enter a phone number. Now before I submit information to the server, I just wanted to show you the backend service or the backend web page that gets generated from the URL that we pasted in. And this is nothing more than just a standard HTML page that gets generated, but we do have a success string here that if we scroll down, and here this success string is just any string that we pick that will be embedded within the HTML page. And so once our form receives the success string and finds it, since this is the pattern that we're looking for, the form will know that everything was successfully processed by the server, and it can go ahead and proceed to the next success scene. And you can use server-side processing, and if the information that was submitted through the post doesn't meet the server's criteria, you simply don't return a success string, and so the user will not get directed to the success scene. So let's go ahead and put a phone number now and click on submit, and sure enough we get redirected to the success scene. So I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.